Welcome back, Unicorn and Frog. Here we are. Podcast number 11.
11.
It's a big one. It's kind
Big
of
show,
like a
big show.
big show. It's kind of a follow-up to 10, right?
Yeah. So as we've done in some episodes, there's a little cleanup from the prior episode. And when I'm preparing for the episode, I always re-listen to the last episode. This whole episode's going to be cleanup.
Okay. Can we talk that I'm a little sparkly today?
You are a little sparkly.
Yeah. I'm being a little festive because of the holidays.
And like I said, I think black is less festive than maybe if that were red. I'm just saying.
Thanks. Let's acknowledge.
Or it could be orange for Thanksgiving.
Let's just acknowledge the difference in the mic there because Travis fixed it. It is much better. Thank you, Travis.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, so today, well, let's go back to last episode. We were talking about compatibility and versus attraction.
Right.
And attraction. We had 10 different kind of key areas to explore, and one of them was fostering friendship.
Right.
And if you watched the last episode or listened to it,
which we hope you did.
Yeah, we hope you did. I struggled a little bit on that one. So as I was preparing, I was reflecting on, why was I struggling? What was I missing? And as I often do, I turn to my journal and I just start writing. And I'm going to read what I wrote earlier today. And then maybe later I'll share a visual that I had. But so let me read. I don't normally read directly from the paper, but
here we are.
I think it's appropriate. I want to get these words right. You ready?
I am.
Or would you like to read it?
No, go ahead.
In my first marriage, my focus was on building myself, fighting to establish my identity in a world where I craved recognition and validation. I loved my wife and the life we were creating, yet I was also consumed by a struggle for personal significance. I was in love with the idea of love, of building a family, and of fulfilling the traditional ideals of a perfect home. But the me in the real world was battling to be seen and heard, and those struggles didn't stay outside the walls of our home. The very place that should have been my refuge became another battlefield, as my fight for identity spilled over into our relationship. Home stopped being the safe haven I needed. Instead, it became a place where I felt judged or misunderstood, where acceptance seemed conditional. When that balance was lost, I realized something vital. We all need a place where we can retreat, where we are loved unconditionally, and where we can recharge. Without that sanctuary, it's nearly impossible to bring our best selves to the relationship or to life itself. In contrast, my current marriage reflects the shift in perspective. I no longer view home as the backdrop for a battle for my identity. Instead, I place our relationship first, not in a way that sacrifices who I am, but in a way that aligns with a deeper understanding of partnership. Here I feel safe to be myself. The battles I fight externally don't define my relationship. They stop at the door. Our home is a refuge, a place where I recharge and where we face life's challenges together as partners. In this dynamic, friendship forms the foundation of our connection. It's not a fallback position or a secondary layer. It's interwoven into the fabric of our marriage, strengthening the trust, safety, and joy that allow us both to thrive.
Wow. How many times did you read it since you wrote it?
A couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
You'll have to put that somewhere else, like...
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because today I published a Substack article.
Okay.
Substack.com.
I was just going to say, can you briefly...
thebillryan.substack.com, which is where I...
Journal.
Just to go back, wrote a book about a year and a half ago. We have several brands that we're developing, but I just started this Substack what do I call it, Substack platform about 2 months ago. And so you'll see a lot of my ideas there. So I wanted to focus, on everything really about fostering friendship because.
Well, can we dissect what you just read first? Maybe not dissect.
Well, I will.
Okay.
So the visual that kind of motivated this was because I was trying to think, what is it about our relationship and me and our relationship that is different? And I know it feels different to me. And that's, again, what I struggled to articulate in our last episode. And this concept of individual identity, I know it became very clear to me today how that struggle impacted my first marriage. As you know, I was working in my family's business, so there was a struggle happening,
internally
with my father, which manifested itself in a couple different ways and more meaningfully at different times during my career. He was, I loved my father. He was a great business person, very successful. Part of it was probably me, again, seeking my own identity, wanting to be separate. I had a strong knowing early in my career and in my life that I felt like I was destined to do something significant. And at that point in my life, I was like, it was like oxygen for me. I had to make my mark. And so from 89 to 97, I had a great ride, really achieved at a high level. And I'm very aware of my ambition then. There was that, father-son dynamic that was occurring. But I was a young kid in an industry with people much older than me and, ended up competing at a high level and outperforming people that had been in the business for a long time. So that was great. And then personally also trying to, be the best that I could be. So I know I was on this path, this growth path. It was a rocket ship for me. And I think that was in stark contrast to the experience that my wife was having. She was a stay-at-home mom. We ended up having 4 kids. I won't speak to what her identity pursuits were because that's not my place. But obviously, I have learned from my early experiences. And you and I didn't talk about this, but I think if I were to point to one thing, and I've got a list here of, let's see, what is it? I think it's 5. 5 different aspects of friendship and relationship. But number 1 is safe space for identity. And if I were to point to one thing that was apparent with you from our first date was, I call you the relationship whisperer, but
hence the unicorn.
Yes. But you were a safe space for me. Equally important, I absolutely know I am loved by you. I never doubt it. I always feel it. And that probably is linked or intertwined with feeling the safe space for identity. But so when we communicate, and obviously, communication's a big thing for you and me, and honest communication is definitely a cornerstone of our relationship. But there's the distinction here. I'm still struggling a little bit to articulate, but
it's just a lot.
The distinction is I was when I was 29, and which was the beginning of this great run that I had in my career. I was pissing people off every day. It wasn't. I wasn't like cantankerous as a leader, but I was stepping on toes every day because I was changing the status quo. So people within my company would get bent out of shape a little bit. Consultants, I ended up replacing all my consultants because they couldn't take us to that next level. So I probably, I was definitely seen as ambitious. Our company achieved a lot of success, received a lot of awards. I'm sure that created some jealousy among my peers. But when you're battling like I was, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, wanting to make a difference, having to meet resistance almost every day on what I was trying to accomplish, it puts you in a mindset. And I know that it wasn't so much that I took my work home, because I was always very laid back, and I didn't get stressed out about things. But if anybody tried to stifle my identity or what I was trying to accomplish, then we were engaged.
It's on.
It's on. Mm-hmm. And so today I don't have that. In fact, I have this note to myself. It's in my article on Substack, but it helps us that I am content with me. Like I'm not fighting any battles today. I don't have to prove myself to anybody. Been there, done that. I've lived enough to know that I can't. If people choose to think negative things about me, they're going to think negative things about me, and I can't change that. So, I know I'm so much better equipped today to be in a relationship than I was at 29. And I don't say that to take anything away from our relationship.
Yeah.
But so that's the identity piece. The other piece is the care I have for the relationship. So for me, in my mind's eye, I put a force field around our relationship. Like I know there's something special here that I don't want to mess up. And so when we communicate, and I will say honestly, in the interest of full disclosure, there were 2 times when I think I could have communicated more effectively. I didn't regress into my old mindset, but I reacted, but I contained the reaction. I knew I didn't want to
overreact.
Well, I knew I didn't want to go into battle, because relationships are fragile, and you've helped me understand that you can communicate with candor and honesty without, it's that idea of you have to be right. You can be right or wrong, but in the past, my being right was more important than harmony in the relationship. Today, harmony in the relationship is more important.
Love you so much. Yeah, so that's a lot to
I know.
process and take in. And then, so let me go back to the initial comments. I think, number one, we are also a product of our environment. So yes, you were younger, as you always correct me. So the relationship was much different. You as a human being were different at that age. You evolved since, clearly, we all have. So you handle our relationship and our communication differently than you would at 29, regardless if it was the first marriage and that individual, or me, if it was then. You know, you've evolved and you understand yourself more now. So I think your communication is going to be better. Well, you would hope that communication gets
Right.
better over time. As far as the product of the environment, for me, my dad always probably put the relationship, and well, in my mind, I don't know if they would feel the same. It would be interesting to get them in here. But what I saw is that he did put the relationship first over work, and he was successful. He got to retire, as you know, earlier than the norm. Are they living lavish? No, but they're happy, they're healthy, and they're living, in the beautiful
A life well lived.
Absolutely.
Yep.
They're still best friends. They still respect each other, and they communicate really well together. So I think, again, I'm a product of my environment. That's what I saw. That's all I knew. When you brought up your motivation and how driven you were, and how you were trying to find your own identity during that journey, that sounds to me like your dad. Like here he was amongst all his peers in the industry, trying to be the best, became the best due to the team that he had underneath of him, because you could be a great coach if you don't have players, forget winning. So he put the right team in place, and you played your part. But a lot of what you say and again, you and I don't know each other long enough, but from what I hear, it sounds very similar to what your dad probably tried to achieve as well on his journey in the same industry and business. So that's interesting to me. And then lastly, the relationship safety, that's huge. I'm also which some of you may know or may not know, we're both divorced. So in my previous marriage, I think for me, because of the career that I was in and the path that I was on, I was too independent, and I didn't lean on him enough, because I felt like, well, I don't need him. I'm making this money. I'm doing great. I was doing great before he came along. He and I have discussed that. I've apologized for that I would say it. I don't need you. Which is terrible to say to your husband. I think I would say it like in heated moments. Clearly, it wasn't just random, but the fact that it was still always a safe space for us to communicate, and I think I create that unknowingly, subconsciously, because that's all I know.
I'm going to go off script here a little bit, but why don't you have heated moments now? We don't have heated moments.
No, we don't. I mean, I think there's been two discussions that weren't even arguments, but they were impactful. I think they made a difference in our relationship and how we communicate, which is awesome. The fact that we've been together since 2019, we've only had two real heavy discussions. I don't know. I don't really want to say arguments, because we didn't really argue, but that's impressive. And the fact that we learned from them, and the second of the two was even better than the first, like, I can't ask for more.
Yeah.
So.
But, I think it's funny that when you am I using the right words? Heated moment. That's. I remember the heated moments that I've had in my first marriage, and there was even at the time thinking I was entitled to that heated moment because I felt wronged. I don't go there with us, like.
Yeah,
So
the right or wrong doesn't matter.
Part of that's obviously my maturity, my age. I've had enough experiences that, fortunately, I've learned from them. We don't always learn from our experiences, but I have. But we have yet to really have a heated moment.
Really? You don't consider those two to be heated? They were passionate.
Oh, no, I was heated. Yeah, but you weren't.
Oh, awesome.
You haven't gone there.
That's great.
Yeah, the 2 times that I did, the first one was interesting. We'll talk about, that'll be a future episode. But so I want to talk about, again, staying on this theme of friendship in a relationship. One of the things I was struggling to understand is, if you're in a committed, loving, romantic relationship, like friendship is the thing I have with my friends, which is super important. It's stable,
valuable,
it's reliable. But I always used to think that in my romantic relationship, that was going to be next level, which maybe years ago that was part of my problem, is I had unrealistic expectations. But we even talked about this a little bit in the last episode, that the sense of having levels, like going to the next level, and that friendship was here and then you took it up a notch. So I was trying to reconcile that today, which is how I kind of got to all these ideas. So, in this podcast, we like to talk about relationships, but I think part of what motivated us to do this is for you and me to better understand the why in our relationship. So I've got like 5, maybe I call them the pillars of a healthy relationship.
Okay.
1 is the safe space for identity. 2 is emotional safety and acceptance. 3 is mutual purpose and alignment. 4, self-awareness and personal growth. That's a big one you and I have talked about a lot. And then friendship and partnership. One of the things, as I was kind of processing through all this, I thought about, again, back to mutual purpose and alignment. And alignment is such a great word.
And crucial.
Yeah. And so I contrasted alignment to surface level ideas. So surface level ideas, kind of the way we think about relationships: physical attraction, social roles, material success, and external validation. And when I think back to my first marriage, not only was I, trying to find my place in the hierarchy of life and career, but as a couple, in the midst of our friends who were also couples, trying to, you've got that part of it is when you're younger and your kids are in school and you get thrust into these social settings, whether it's a school function or whatever. And I don't. I'd be curious if you felt this, but I felt as I achieved in business, that put me in different circles socially, and that tends to shine a light on
the relationship.
Yeah, and not just you as a person, because you're there, with your spouse. I think of the circle of friends that we had, and what that interaction did, to our relationship. You observe other people's relationships. You can't help but compare your relationship to others, and maybe a friend is struggling in their relationship, and that makes you think about how lucky you are in yours, so that the surface level ideas, there's no question that played a role in some of the dissatisfaction that I was experiencing in my first marriage. And I think, again, as I've shared, I was 24 for a day when I got married, so I was super young. Today, I would say I was super young when I got married. I didn't think I was young at the time. But we had, both my wife and I we came from strong families. So their idea of what committed romantic relationship was impacted our idea. And I don't think, I know for a fact, my wife and I did not intentionally chart the course of our romantic relationship.
Well, at that age, who does?
Right.
Right.
But everybody should, right? I mean, if there's one thing, we've learned a lot from our past experiences, but you have to have a common vision, and that common vision better exist before you exchange vows, because once kids start happening and life starts happening, it only gets tougher. Not that in a relationship people aren't challenged in life, and that puts pressure on following the vision. That definitely happens, but I think, I know for me, and maybe it was just where I lived and kind of the environment, those surface level ideas impacted our relationship a lot.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience.
No.
Which,
Did you see it when you were in New York before you got married?
No.
Your parents didn't?
They had great friends. They all supported each other. There was never a competition with couples. It wasn't like I heard them talking about another couple being like, oh, we aspire to be like them, or, oh, so-and-so commented on our relationship and they wished that they were like ours and they're really unhappy otherwise, or something like that. And it wasn't because they wouldn't have talked about it in front of us. It just didn't. I didn't have that experience.
Yeah,
there was no pressure.
I witnessed it a lot with my parents. It was interesting, and friendship's a very important thing with me, as you know.
And me, with us.
No, but I mean, in my life growing up, friendship was a big deal. And as you know, I've lost friendships through the years. What I noticed with my parents, their friendships were different than my friendships. And I was lucky growing up through basketball. I made some incredible friendships, and we as friends were lucky that we shared. We were definitely aligned. We were, I think, bound together by the sport that we played, and I'm thinking of some specific friends of mine who we played basketball all the time. So we were always together, and we could rely on one another. We would push one another, but it wasn't, I mean, I was going to say it wasn't competitive. Obviously it's
But it was a healthy competitive.
Yeah. Like I wanted them to push me to be better, and hopefully they wanted that too. But the camaraderie that I had among my friends, I did not witness with my parents and their friends.
That could have also been generational too.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't have there wasn't an example there that guided me. Now, my parents absolutely were best friends, and for their whole lives. And it was actually in their later years that I saw it more as friendship. Like for most of, probably until I was 40, it was more patriarch and matriarch. And we had a big family, and that creates different obligations, responsibilities. But so anyway, I'm just kind of curious what you saw growing up that way.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have that experience from my parents and their friends. It was they were, it was the 80s, baby. They were living the high life. They were going out, having fun. They were going to the discos, and they were just really enjoying their life. And my brothers and I got to experience, we got to see that, we got to experience that with them in a sense. So it was always great.
So as I was doing some research for the article, but also for our episode, and I used it earlier, but the notion of emotional safety. And I have to tell you, before today, that wasn't a concept that I ever thought about. Like it didn't guide my thinking or my behavior. So I had to do a little bit of research on that, and I don't know that I'm entirely clear on I know what emotional safety is, but
I would call it something else.
What would you call it?
And even from years ago, it would be like emotional support from my partner, whether it be, husband or boyfriend from years ago.
Yeah.
How, I forget the words that people say, they're not emotionally available. I think that's what it's called. A lot of women would be, oh, he's not emotionally available. So to me, that's kind of the same thing. Like if somebody's supporting you enough so that you can be vulnerable and safe emotionally, that's supportive.
So one kind of thought that might guide a different response from you is it's like it's the heated moment again. If you're in a relationship where you have trouble being honest, that might be because you fear
the reaction. Totally.
You fear the heated moment, which would then suggest that emotional safety does not exist.
Right.
That you feel that there potentially are consequences to what you might say. And then that keeps you from saying it. So emotional safety, I don't know, it just seems like when I first kind of stumbled on it as a concept, it felt a little bit, I almost felt like wrapped in kind of a Me Too moment. Like, this is, like it's unsafe. But I think it's a little bit more nuanced and subtle than that. That it's not so much that there's an apparent safety issue at all.
Right.
It's more I am reluctant to be totally honest because of how
You may or may
the
not
reaction,
react. Right.
yeah, might go. So I'll have to give that some more thought because again, it's not baked into, my thinking about relationships.
And my thing would be for disappointing my partner, in this case, you, my husband. It wouldn't be me not telling you something because of the reaction I'm afraid of to get from you. It's more of, I don't want to disappoint him. So that's my emotional comfort. That's my own. But it's never about your reaction. I'm not worried about your reaction.
Well, you shouldn't. You shouldn't limit your comments based on how'd you say it? Like not my reaction,
For
but
being disappointed.
Yeah,
No, I don't think I limit. I think it's just I actually prefer that this is where my head goes. That it's I don't want to disappoint him, but of course I'm going to tell you anyway. It's not so much I don't want to tell him because I'm afraid of his reaction. Make sense? I still tell you, regardless. I don't curb it. I think you've learned that by now. I don't curb my conversations. They're pretty full on.
Well, but
even in our the heated discussions.
Yeah, but I don't I don't want to be coddled either, right?
No.
So let's go back to levels for a minute because again, levels we think about hierarchy, and clearly in a romantic relationship versus a friendship, there are distinct differences. There, the physical intimacy creates a different level of vulnerability. One of the things about friendship that's interesting and probably convenient is that, I can go out to a bar, have a beer with a friend, and we can hang out and watch sporting events and all that stuff, and it's all great and it's all important, and hopefully your friends are there too for emotional support when you need it. But we're not living together, and we're not intertwined the way two people are in a marriage. So there's some things you can't escape when you're in a marriage that that a friendship with a friend isn't burdened by. So in some ways it's easier to be a friend, but friendship in a relationship obviously is talking about something else. And one characterization I saw that I stumbled on was that it's not, obviously it has nothing to do with hierarchy, but you think about the levels more like layers of a cake, and it brings just a different richness to your experience together. And I think of when we travel, like it's so easy for us to travel together,
which is bizarre.
You always say that. Why do you say it's bizarre?
Because I don't really hear other people saying that when I travel with my spouse or significant other, everything goes smoothly. Like I never hear that. And we're so proud of that we do tell people and we do tell each other, oh, what a pleasure it is to be with you and travel with you. I don't know. I find it interesting. I don't know if my parents experienced that. I'd be curious to ask them.
Another question have for living.
How were they when they were traveling? Because that would be interesting, actually, to know that answer.
So that's where the metaphor of layers of a cake seems to make some sense to me. That it's when you're traveling together, it's experiential, right? Well, it is for us. We have common interests when we travel. We like to interact if we're in a European city, we want to blend in.
We want to be amongst the locals.
To the locals, yeah.
Yeah.
But that familiarity that we share, the ease with which we flow through those sometimes foreign experiences,
Translates.
It happens so easily.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, to me, it says something about the friendship that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And, it feels a little corny when people say, oh, she's my best friend,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that feels corny. That's probably the next thing I need to examine. But again, if you think about the intensity changing when you go from friendship to committed romantic relationship, there is a greater intensity.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that we experience the greater intensity, but still are kind of wrapped in this ease and comfort, that, to me, that's pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the foundation of our relationship was built very early. The foundation was built early, and it was built on respect for each other, adoration for each other, and just really thoroughly enjoying each other's company. We don't get bored of each other. We don't get, I can't wait for time with my friend. It's not like that. We're not escaping from one another. We're running towards each other. Yeah. And it's been that way since the beginning. So
yeah, and like we say, we feel grateful for
mm-hmm.
the relationship that we have, and that is partly what motivated this podcast. Is, again, we're trying to figure out what that secret sauce is. And,
mm-hmm.
We also think maybe we've got some good ideas to share with other people, and that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. A few people, which have said that they love our love. One was even our guest on our show.
Yeah.
And they couldn't pinpoint exactly what it is that they wish they had per se, but they, from our experience, but they do love our love. So I think that's awesome.
So I have a concluding statement. I'll probably
Okay.
have a couple comments afterwards, but I think this is important too. So life's challenges and lessons have shaped me into someone who now prioritizes balance, emotional safety, and mutual growth in relationships. And this is key. This growth isn't a reflection of failure in my first marriage. It's a testament to the journey I've taken and the wisdom I've gained along the way.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, my first marriage taught me what I needed, and my current marriage reflects what I've learned. This isn't about assigning blame or regret. It's about recognizing the growth that has allowed me to build the relationship I now cherish.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's inevitable that as we speak about relationships, we make comparisons to prior relationships, whether it's someone we dated, someone
mm-hmm.
we were married to, whatever. And, it's important to, I think, anyone that is struggling in a relationship, whatever that struggle might be, whether you stay in the relationship or you exit the relationship, we're all still learning and growing. And that's really the
Hopefully.
thing is, that if contrast is made, if comparison is made, it's not made in a way to emphasize a prior failure.
Mm-hmm.
It's really to share the growth. And in our case, I think, share what's possible,
mm-hmm.
right? That, I know when I left my marriage and I started dating, I knew it was a tough decision to make, and I made it committed to finding what I believed was possible in a relationship, and I was lucky enough to find it. Like I said, I was lucky enough to find it.
Yeah, we're both very lucky. We're blessed. And I think we could, continue this topic, of course, in another. They all seem to kind of go together because this is what we talk about mostly, relationships and how to make them better. But I think for me, the trust is there, and that's huge, whether that be just trusting the entire relationship or just me being with you as a whole. It's a strong relationship, and I'm really appreciative for that.
Same.
So until next time, feel free to download our podcast app. Is that what you're supposed to say? The app?
Download our podcast episode on your favorite podcasting app.
Yes, that. Until next time, I'm the unicorn, Stacy Ryan.
And I'm the frog, Bill Ryan.
Bye.